soon we should see a rematch of the top 4 worlds match. Aaron Cybertron Zhang versus Ryosuke Kosuge / gebebo.
And what we mean is we hope we do not mean Blizzard soon, TM.
I'm hoping that we'll see fewer swaggers than we did last time, or that Aaron will have like Lumberry, Persimberry, Taunt, Safeguard.
Safeguard on all 5 Pokemon, and then the 6th will be a sweeper with Lumberry or something,
Don't even mess with it. We do see Ryosuke's team preview here, which is a different team than last time. Could try and see everything here. Let's see Aaron's team. Let's see. We got on Aaron's side. We've got it's 6 Pokemon we've seen before. Aaron, apparently not phased by his defeat at the hands of gebebo in Vancouver, has selected the same team. At gebebo's end, we've got Liepard, Latios, Landorus Therian form, Thunderous Incarnate form, Volcarona, and Bisharp. So a similar team on gebebo's end, at least as far as the 2 Therians go, but some different choices in the other slots. I know he mentioned in his blog/team report that he'd been thinking about switching to a Liepard team for Worlds, but opted out of sentimentality to stick with the team he'd had previously. So I'm assuming this is the team he would have used at Worlds had he not used what he did. I'm going to imagine he made the right choice, judging by the fact that he finished 2nd in the world, but it'll be interesting to see how this alternate option ends up playing out for him here, especially since Liepard is a Pokemon that Aaron is very familiar with.
Well, exactly, because we know that Aaron is Sage and Park's #1 fan. It definitely played around with a lot of Sage's teams. After the Sage and Breloom Liepard team came to the forefront of the collective communities, and they were all playing around with it. I know I played around with it a bit, nowhere near as successfully as Sage did, but and touching on gebebo's team, this is definitely an interesting remake. I think I've seen this team before because I did see gebebo play. I think this is what he used actually against Korea. In the Japan versus Korea match as well. So we have seen this come around a little bit. It's similar style to his Worlds team, but just with some different pieces here. Adding the Liepard in is different. The Bisharp is definitely different. The Volcarona. So there's a core, but he's added some new threats here. Also looks like a very solid team on paper as well.
Yeah, I think I got bored and went to bed at that point during the stream, so I didn't recognize it. However, I know that. Or I guess I don't know that. I feel comfortable assuming that Aaron has watched this match if it was during the Korea-Japan thing. So hopefully information will be fairly even then. Obviously, Ryosuke knows Aaron's team since he battled it already.
And made it practically.
Yeah, it's very similar to Ryosuke's team, even though I guess they ended up in a similar place through different routes. But hopefully Aaron knows this team fairly well too, so we'll get an interesting battle here where I guess both sides are on even footing. The thing I would be most concerned about if I was Aaron looking at this team preview is that there are probably 2 Pokemon that can use Swagger, and he couldn't even handle one the first time.
And that's definitely something you got to be worried about. A lot of people, I think, and something I'm just definitely going to touch on myself is the battle screen kind of loads up here and we see some stuff, is a lot of people were giving gebebo a little bit of flack for doing some of the swagger stuff he did, but that was the play that he had. Like, the way Aaron's team matched up is Aaron's team had a better team matchup in a straight fight, so gebebo did what he had to do to win. I think he's well aware that, he had to rely on some dice rolls, but he knew what he was doing, and he had to do it. But looks like the battle is getting loaded in here, and we see a Pokemon named Mean, which is it's a Mamoswine and a Heatran here for Aaron, and a Volcarona Lipo. As I'm trying to remember my Japanese because I haven't played on GPU a little bit, but definitely Liepard and Volcarona here. So
come on, man, you got to be on that stuff.
I
didn't catch that when Aaron had the camera down, but he does have Mamoswine over Landorus Therian form. I know he had mentioned that he was thinking about doing that a few times, so I'm interested to see how this one plays out.
Very quick move selection for Aaron, so it looks like he knows exactly what he wants to do here in this matchup. I'd be very surprised if he lets Mamoswine, not protect or not switch out here, because I think that'd be a kind of an odd mistake with the threat of Fake Out and the threat of Volcarona, even if it is a Scarf Mamoswine, which it very well might be. But since we haven't seen that, we're not really sure, I guess, whereas Heatran is a lot safer to have here in this matchup.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if it wasn't scarfed. I imagine Aaron got the lead he expected from Ryosuke's side there since he moved so quickly. I will say I agree with you too on the probability thing. I mean, it wasn't super fun watching Ryosuke go through Worlds the way he did, but you have to make the highest percentage turn or move every turn. You don't get bonus points for winning in an interesting way. I mean, I was a little flustered that he managed to get through 2 rounds in a row by swaggering physical ground Pokemon, but sometimes you've got to be lucky as well as good. However, I'll definitely enjoy saying exactly what I think about each and every one of these turns, unlike last time.
And Well, it looks like okay, the Volcarona does switch out for the Latios. Landorus. Wow, my Japanese is really, really bad. Holy.
You did get the L right, which is not a letter you can get right in Japanese.
So I'm unique. What can I say? So the Intimidate goes out there. The Lipard does fake out the Heatran actually, and I'm very surprised that there was not what we expected from Aaron at all. So there was no Protect from the Mamoswine.
I was assuming it was Scarfed. So Rock Slide is what I was expecting from Mamoswine. I got what I expected there. However, this is not a good spot for him. A great switch in by Ryosuke to get Landorus Therian form out. Because it is almost certainly Scarfed, although I guess we haven't had that confirmed yet. Assuming it's Scarfed, it can't just switch to an Ice move. And I'm assuming that both based on its nickname and the fact it's a Mamoswine being used after Worlds, Ryosuke will also assume that it is Scarfed.
This time.
Well, it beat him so soundly the first time. Yeah, I mean, the first time apparently he never quite realized it. But this puts him in a really dominating position here. It's likely we'll see a switch to a ground immune Pokemon and Lipard slide here, but a really rough spot for Aaron, who's going to have to switch around a bit to recover.
And which also adds the possibility for free damage here. So we see the Mamoswine switching out to Cresselia, so I'd still bet my money that was Scarfed. Heatran will Protect just to see what the Landorus is going to do. And we get a foul play from Lipard, which was definitely directed to the Mamoswine SWAT. So the Dark Gem actually connects with the Cresselia instead, and that's going to deal a lot more damage, I think, than Aaron was expecting, although not super threatening. Of course, the U-turn from Landorus, right on target as well.
I was going to say, it's a really great prediction there. I mean, he clearly anticipated that since Mamoswine was Scarfed, it wouldn't stay in, and Cresselia, the obvious switch in for Aaron. Pokemon, most people with Cresselia bring every game, so fairly safe prediction there, but he hits it twice. It is interesting that he chose to bring in Volcarona off the U-turn there, so I'm curious if it has a coverage move to hit Heatran like a Strange Hidden Power, or if he's just going to target Cresselia with Volcarona here and try to use something like Swagger on Heatran with Lipard.
Or potentially Encore or any of the other moves now that Heatran did show its Protect. But Cresselia is not going to stick around for any of that and decides to bring in Conkeldurr instead to face whatever the Volcarona might show. Heatran also not sticking around, going back to the Mamoswine. So it'll be interesting to see what gebebo does prediction-wise in this case. And it apparently is going to be fake tears, so the Mamoswine's special defense is dropped. Now it'll be interesting to see what Volcarona was actually going to do then. It does have a Strange Hidden Power, which I would have to hazard as ground.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine what else he'd have that's neutral there, and it does explain why he would switch it in to begin with, so a surprising but good play there. Not surprised not to see Encore there, because, I mean, a player of Aaron's level isn't going to fall for that, so there's no point even making the prediction. But a surprising and nice play there. So even though he doesn't get great damage out of it, and Ryosuke has actually found himself in an awkward position now. He's done a lot of great damage here. He's got both Cresselia and Mamoswine at fairly low health now, and has given up almost nothing to do it. He's going to have to take some damage his own direction here to get out of this one safely, since presumably we'll see, at least there's the threat of another Scarf Rock Slide, though Aaron may choose to use an Ice move instead to try to catch Landorus on the switch in here, and also the threat of Mach Punch.
Exactly. There's a couple different threats here. So Volcarona's not going to stick around, which is the safe play. While that Landorus returns onto the field. So it'll be interesting to see what Aaron did, whether it was an Ice Punch or whether it was an Ice Attack from Mamoswine. I have to imagine a player of Aaron's caliber, like you were saying, would not, fall for the same trick twice. But oddly enough, despite the switch, a fake tear is going Conkeldurr's way, despite the thought that he brought in a physical Pokemon as well. So I'm not entirely sure about that.
Oh! Well, Aaron picks the wrong slot there. He gets the Rock Slide and Ice Punch out, and he gets some chip damage, but not really what he wanted there. I mean, so he knew that Landorus was going to come in one of the two slots and just kind of guessed wrong on which one it would be. It does get Lipard down to low HP there, but it comes at a pretty great cost here, because he's going to have to be careful now. He's got Mamoswine at no health, Cresselia at very little health, so it's going to be dangerous for him to switch around. And both of the Pokemon out right now are at reduced special defense. So if Ryosuke is able to fire away with a special attack again, it should easily knock them both out. Fortunately for Aaron, Ryosuke can't just send out Volcarona and Heat Wave, because it's going to get wrecked by Rock Slide if it tries, but a very awkward spot for him now, and he's going to have to try to switch him to a better position before Mamoswine faints, or he's going to be in trouble.
Exactly here, and Mamoswine is pretty much the best, or at this point, only check for the hidden power ground Volcarona. And also, a lot of his Pokemon here are actually taking a lot of damage, so he's not like he has to play. Aaron has to play this very, very carefully to make sure he doesn't get run over here. And
Aaron
we still
does
haven't even
show
seen
the viewers
last.
the item there. The,
Thank you, Aaron.
Warning
You're
message,
great.
but
And we still haven't actually seen the last Pokemon for gebebo yet.
oh, we do see a rock slide there, which gets Aaron that clutch flinch there. I know it's one of the things that Mean mentioned with his namesake Pokemon there, but sometimes just gonna go for the rock slide flinches. He gets it there, and that is a huge play.
That is a very, very good play right now. It's because Volcarona has to come out now. Well, the Conkeldurr is still locked into Rock Slide.
Yeah, I mean, it's a. I mean, I hardly know what just happened here. We had a situation where it looked like that poor Aaron was in quite a hole, and now he's suddenly up in a 4-2 lead. It is a very tricky 4-2 lead because he's got to be really careful how he plays this to avoid getting it equalized in a hurry. With Conkeldurr's special defense still reduced by 2 levels, it's dangerous to try to Heat Wave here. Because if he... I guess it depends on Bisharp's item, but a Sucker Punch and a Heat Wave would knock us back down to 2-2 in a hurry if Bisharp is scarfed, or sashed, sorry. So it's a little more dangerous than it looks here, since the reduced special defense and also Mamoswine's low health is going to make this a little more dangerous than it would otherwise be. You can't just Rock Slide and Mach Punch for the win here and expect to come out ahead.
Exactly, and this is what we were trying to touch on in the last battle with Ray and Huryu, where what Bisharp does right now, it's putting in, Aaron, for all intents and purposes, based on tight matchups and everything else and all things considered here, should win this. But Bisharp is really, really good at this kind of thing. So we do see Mamoswine switching out for the Cresselia, presumably expecting a Sucker Punch from the Bisharp in this case. We do see the Sucker Punch coming out, so it does fail on the Cresselia. Mach Punch firing right back from Conkeldurr to take that super effective damage right down on that Bisharp, and we do not see a Sash, so definitely Dark Gem at this point. And that puts that puts gebebo in a very, really, really rough spot, but the Quiver Dance actually might just change that story altogether.
Yeah, and that's the other threat there. It's that that's the danger of having Bisharp and Volcarona out at the same time. I mean, you were mentioning some of the other properties of Bisharp that make it really frustrating to play against, but perhaps the most irritating is that it encourages you not to attack because it's not safe to do so. And when you don't attack, it lets you use setup moves like Quiver Dance. And while Volcarona is now going to knock out 4 Pokemon, it's faster than everything in Aaron's field. And a Heat Wave, I believe, would knock them both out pretty easily here with Conkeldurr at 2 levels of reduced special defense and Cresselia at such low health. So Aaron's going to play this carefully, but he should still be okay because of Heatran, although he's going to look out for hidden power ground.
Exactly. So, but the thing is, what Aaron can do here is he can keep switching Pokemon around to take, with Flash Fire and Heatran, or bring Cresselia back in to dodge a hidden power ground. So if he finds some opportunities to get some attacks in, he should be good. It really depends. It's going to solely depend on the Mamoswine being the only one that can really KO that Volcarona back right away. So that's what we're going to have to look out for here, is him setting up the Mamoswine play, which he's going to do right now while the Heatran is still immune to all the fire attacks.
Yeah, I would have liked to see a Mach Punch from Aaron just to get the chip damage there, since he knew he was probably going to use Conkeldurr in any situation other than a missed Heat Wave, which he still wouldn't have done much damage. But Aqua's, but we'll see for sure if, what Volcarona's speed EVs are like. It's still possible that Mamoswine is faster, and this is moot without a Rock Slide miss, but at least for the sake of competition, I'm going to assume Volcarona is quicker here, because that'll certainly give us a more exciting ending.
And that's true. And I mean, realistically, gebebo has to make sure the Mamoswine dies this turn. He cannot let it live. So he has to use Heat Wave, which means that Heatran is going to get a Flash Fire boosted, or he's not going to get a Flash Fire boosted move here. Kind of an odd choice. Oh, wow. An excellent, excellent, excellent prediction by gebebo.
Yeah, he just takes the safe Bug Buzz there and knocks out Mamoswine to ensure he can't miss there. Correctly anticipates that Heatran's going to protect, and Aaron is in some trouble now. I don't know if I agree with how he set this up. I feel like what you want to do is, I don't know, I guess there's not a super safe way to do it, but he certainly got out-predicted there. I feel like you need to try to set up a situation where you're threatening both damage and Trick Room, but I feel like he may have lost too much health at the beginning of this game to successfully pull that one off.
In another case, I probably would have also I probably would have also risked the Mamoswine would be Gebebo's bigger threat there, and maybe tried to throw some fire attacks back with the flash fire boost just to get the Volcarona really low. You're probably going to lose Mamoswine for it, and then you have Cresselia, which he has to make the decision whether to hidden power ground or to attack the Cresselia then, and you might be able to get that residual trip damage on it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious how this game would have gone had Aaron just taken all of his chip damage opportunities, barring something like really ridiculous here. Gebebo easily closed this one out here with a surprising sweep there. A little bit surprised that Aaron didn't go for the double protect, at least give himself a chance at winning there, but he's missing all the predictions this game. But I'm curious because he could have had a free fire move from Heatran 2 turns ago. He could have had a free Mach Punch from Kinkelder the turn before that. He could have had at least one free psychic move from Cresselia here. I'm curious if all of that knocks out Volcarona, but instead he's trying to get cute and switch around and not taking the damage opportunities he's given, and instead we've got a full health Volcarona here who will close the game out barring a critical hit.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing. I'm not really sure what Aaron was trying to do there. There were so many opportunities. Like if you take the Mach Punch, if you take the free like we're talking a flash fire boosted fire move here. If you take the free damage from Cresselia, at all those things combined, I'm pretty sure would have probably knocked out that Volcarona, barring something odd like a citrus berry or whatever. But not really sure if I really follow Aaron's playing there, not taking the advantages he should have to secure himself the win.
Yeah, it's a tough loss for Aaron there. He built himself an awesome 4-1 lead there, and he choked it away a little bit. This is sort of what I was mentioning back when the game was, I think, 4-2, 4-3. And I mentioned, he had a bunch of low health Pokemon out, most of which had lowered special defense, and why that wasn't a great situation for Aaron, even though he had a advantage in score because he was in a bad position, and it gave Gebebo an easy setup and turnaround opportunity. And I guess it's kind of a threat of switching around early in the game and letting a bunch of your counters get worn down like that, is that later in the game you lose a lot of your flexibility, and it makes it much easier for your opponent to play. And Aaron had 2 options there. Either he could try to outplay Gebebo and get an advantage through tricking him into attacking into a protect or getting Trick Room off or something, or he could just kind of accept that he'd played that part of the game poorly and just hope that he'd played it well enough that he could use his opportunities to do enough damage, which in this case I think he would have as long as he didn't miss Heat Wave. But he tried to rely on his skill there rather than just
taking the brute force opportunity, right? So
yeah.
He basically had a unique situation where he had all 4 Pokemon to basically throw their bodies at the Volcarona to try and do enough damage to make him win in the end, with probably something that had very low health left or was 1 move from dying. But instead, like you said, like maybe bringing out the Cresselia to try and Trick Room would have earlier before the Mamoswine would have been a good opportunity. There's a couple different things that Aaron could have done better, and I would be rather shocked, honestly, even with the special defense from Quiver Dance, that all that residual damage wouldn't have knocked it out before the end.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that's one of the tough situations that his choice of item on Cresselia actually created for him there. If he'd been using a Citrus Berry Cresselia, like is the standard, instead of using his rest thing, I feel like he could have set up a situation where he could have used Trick Room safely by forcing Ryosuke to use Heat Wave or to Bug Buzz Cresselia, in which case he would have gotten a free attack with Mamoswine or Heatran. But because he went with the rest set, it limited his options some because his health got a lot lower. So it put him in a Heat Wave KO range with the reduced special defense sooner. It also prevented him from coming in later and being able to survive a hit because he didn't have that healing, and he couldn't create a situation where it would be safe to use rest. It's sort of the drawback of that set. I think Rest Cresselia was actually really good, and Rest in general was something I thought came out of Worlds this year as a really strong choice in this metagame for defensive Pokemon, but it does have drawbacks, and I thought that was kind of one of the hidden parts of why that comeback was possible for Ryosuke there, is that Aaron just didn't... He gave himself pieces where he can't... He has to control the game a little bit better. He can't just kind of like run a shootout because he's not using a shootout team. Like he needs a little more... He needs to control the game a little bit more and slow things down and make sure he's staying in safe situations, because his team can blow up real quickly one way or the other.
And that's kind of the thing. It's... like Aaron's team, like you were saying, he basically gave himself such a huge advantage and then basically ignored the things that might have gotten the win at the end just by thinking he was so far ahead. And I mean, not to say that Aaron's, making terrible plays, but there's just some things he could have done better. And the Rest Cresselia, it's great for those situations where you're getting a lot of chip damage, you're either slowly whittling something down, and then all of a sudden you just rest it back up and totally mess them up. But it's not so great when you have like Quiver Dancing Volcarona, where you need to survive large amounts of damage at once. It's an entirely different environment. But we do see Game 2 getting under the way here, as the white screen, goes for communicating and all that great stuff. So we will see if Aaron decides to switch it up here, and if gebebo decides to switch it up here. Note we see Conkeldurr and Mamoswine on Aaron's side of the field, and for gebebo, once all the little graphics and flourishes are, we do see Latios and Liepard. So that's the Latios, the other L Pokemon.
Yeah, so interesting to see he chose to deviate from his Pokemon in the first game. I think that's one thing that's sort of interesting to me watching players play best of threes, is that it's, unless you have multiple modes, it's sort of uncommon to watch the player who won the game make too many adjustments. I'm not surprised to see that Ryosuke has chosen to make some adjustments, given that that game probably should have been a loss for him there, and got a little bit of help from planning his endgame better than Aaron did, and Aaron making some questionable decisions toward the end there. This is sort of a fun situation too, because you've got Mamoswine here who will blow up Latios if it doesn't get faked out. So it's fairly safe to assume that'll happen, but if it does, then Conkeldurr can Mach Punch Liepard for that knockout. It also has the option of Ice Punching Latios if he thinks that Latios will target Mamoswine to get rid of it. So,
and there's, as we predicted, Aaron didn't protect, or rather not protect, he didn't switch out before. Oddly enough, the Latios choosing to use Icy Wind to lower the speeds of both Conkeldurr and Mamoswine. So Conkeldurr is going to get a free turn here, basically. He doesn't really mind being slow, and it's going to get the ability to Ice Punch the Latios. We'll see how much sense I'm doing. I hazard it's a lot, if not the knockout. And in this case, it is the knockout, straight up. So interesting choice with Icy Wind there. I'm not sure I really understand that, unless he's planning on bringing out Volcarona to do some serious damage right here.
Yeah, I was going to say, and there we see it. I'd be shocked if that wasn't what we were about to see. So it does create a complicated situation for Aaron here. He has to be really careful how he plays this one. He doesn't want to give Volcarona a free Quiver Dance and lose the same way he lost in Game 1. However, he can't just assume it's going to Quiver Dance here either, because Ryosuke and Rock Slide, because Ryosuke does have the option of just using Fake Tears and Heat Wave, which would lead to an easy knockout on Mamoswine. A really important piece for Aaron to try to keep this Volcarona under control. So he's got to remember, or I guess not remember, but he's got to be careful, because Ryosuke has the option of both attacking and doing a ton of damage here, or playing the more long-term route and trying to set up Quiver Dance again. He also has Mach Punch and Conkeldurr, which could knock out Liepard fairly easily, but he may not actually want to do that, because it gives Ryosuke a free switch to something that's actually threatening, whereas Liepard isn't really doing anything but applying Fake Tears right now, which I guess is pretty irritating in its own right. But
well, that totally knocks out the thick fat on Mamoswine here, and so the Fake Tears do actually come towards the Mamoswine as we predicted. So that, I would hazard to guess, we're going to see the Heat Wave right here from Volcarona. Mach Punch comes out from Conkeldurr, targeting the Liepard as we all expected, and that will drop straight down there with the Iron Fist Conkeldurr with Life Orb that Aaron's running. So let's see what the Volcarona does, because that's the interesting thing. We do get the Heat Wave as we expected that does not miss, and so this should definitely drop the Mamoswine with the Fake Tears, and brings Conkeldurr close to death as well.
Yeah,
or fainting.
Pokemon don't die, their data is just reconfigured.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry,
Wait, sorry, wrong franchise. But a nice play by Ryosuke there. I'd kind of been concerned, as a totally unbiased commentator who's definitely not been a former member of Team USA, a little concerned to see that Aaron kind of let that one happen there. But he does have Rotom this time to help deal with Volcarona, but Rotom and his mortal enemy, Thundurus, facing off on the battlefield once again.
And that's definitely something I'd like to see here. So we'll see how Aaron plays this here, because really the Rotom is the threat for the the Volcarona. So Volcarona could actually start Quiver Dancing if, while Thundurus plays its fun game of Swagger and Thunder Wave and all that delightful stuff that I'm sure Aaron is kind of cringing at right now, just as a repeat of that match from Top 4 in Worlds goes through his head. Can't really count out the Conkeldurr chip damage either. It'll do some significant damage to the Thundurus, but otherwise it's not going to do too much to Volcarona. So it'll be interesting to see if gebebo decides to play offensive here or play defensive, and, well, not defensive, but play for the later game.
Yeah, I would expect to see a more long-term strategy from him here. There's a variety of things he can do here. He always has the option of just protecting and taking the free knockout on Kinkeldr as well. Since he doesn't want to take the Ice Punch on Thundurus, even though Volcarona is the important Pokemon for him closing this game out, he does need to get it a few turns here. And so he really can't pick any options that lead to him taking a free Ice Punch here, because I don't think he'll be able to close it out. He also has to try to figure out what Aaron's final Pokemon here is. There aren't too many Pokemon in Aaron's team that could be a huge problem. Most people like to assume basically any situation that the last Pokemon is Cresselia, in which case it wouldn't be very effective here, but I guess we'll see.
So we're just definitely, we get the Electric Gem Thunderbolt, actually, is not what I was anticipating necessarily, going straight to that Rotom. So it looks like the gebebo strategy is to take down that Rotom as fast as possible. In this case, the Citrus Berries will heal the Rotom back up, and will it be enough actually to... Well, the Heat Wave from Volcarona is not going to KO the Rotom, I can guarantee that, but it will drop the Kinkeldr. And we'll see what the Rotom does here.
Oh, we see a Light Screen from Rotom. I was kind of hoping for a Hydro Pump there.
But with Aaron, would it have missed? I mean, that's always the catch here. This isn't really good. Light Screen or not, Thunderbolt and Bug Buzz are really, really going to hurt that Rotom regardless. And now we actually see a little more planning here from Aaron with the Tyranitar. With Sand up and with that Light Screen up, pretty much that Volcarona, Bug Buzz or not, it's not going to do as much damage as gebebo would be hoping. And that Rock Slide is going to hurt what he has out there right now. So this is where he presses the swagger button.
I hate to say... Yeah, you're probably right. I think that's unfortunately, Swagger or at least Thunderwave is the correct solution for gebebo here, as frustrating as it is to say. He's going to need to find a way to get extra actions here, either by stopping Tyranitars or by getting a free Quiver Dance somehow, because otherwise Rock Slide is going to finish this game.
So we do see the Thunderwave is the optimal choice here to paralyze the Tyranitar in hopes of getting it fully paralyzed. The Bug Buzz will come out from the Volcarona, also targeting the Tyranitar, so he's going to try and take that down as fast as possible given the threat it has to his team. He does get the special defense drop, but that may or may not matter depending on what happens here. Hydro Pump does come out, targeting the Volcarona, and so that is nice to see that old Nemesis die, because it does drop in the one-shot.
And Tyranitar shockingly able to hit his Rock Slide. So Aaron hits 2 attacks that can miss in the same turn.
And doesn't even get fully paralyzed.
It's a miracle. So Aaron does close the game out there. I want to give Aaron props this game out. We were a little critical about his lack of endgame planning in the first game, but he did a really good, or he had a really good plan in the second game, I thought. He made one adjustment that I wish he'd made at Worlds and correctly picked his last Pokemon as Tyranitar there, and it really helped him close the game out there. He put himself in a situation where he knocked out everything that mattered other than things Tyranitar could counter and get it in at full health and with Light Screen up. I was complaining he didn't Hydro Pump there, but it's actually a much higher percentage play on his end just to get the Light Screen up and try to let Tyranitar finish it out, because otherwise if he misses the Hydro Pump, I think he opens himself to a much more... The odds of losing are much higher, I guess.
So that's definitely the correct play that Aaron did there. So a good job for him to kind of bounce back from the first game there, just to solidify his thing. Also of note, just by watching Aaron's games, in Worlds itself on the TV and stuff, he really, really liked that Cresselia, even when sometimes it was not the best option. Where here we didn't see it. Like, Cresselia is one of those Pokemon that really opens yourself up to the swaggering, to the Thunder Waves. The slow-paced game is really what that Thundurus deals in percentages, thrives on. Aaron didn't do any of that. He brought all damage, and he was definitely rewarded for that there.
Yeah, I thought that was a good adjustment by him. I think this is just one matchup where you don't get very much out of Cresselia. And I thought he made a poor choice to bring it in the first game, unless he was going to set up Trick Room, which he didn't end up doing. I know it's kind of like the default mode for Aaron's team is that you bring Cresselia basically every game. You try to get Trick Room up so you can sweep with Heatran and Kinkeldr, but the opportunity, it's both not easy to accomplish and not really necessary in this matchup, in my opinion. So I like that he deviated from that in this game. I think Tyranitar is fantastic against this team. He pretty much beats 4 members of it straight up on his own. I guess more like 3, but I mean, with speed control, he can get almost everybody. So Tyranitar, great choice in this matchup, especially to do some extra chip damage for him here, which that was sort of an issue for him last time he fought Thunderous, where you get tons and tons of healing off of the leftovers recovery. So just to keep Thunderous's health heading in the right direction, I think having Tyranitar around is a big deal. It also kind of puts that bit of doubt in Ryosuke's head there. Well, I commented at the beginning of the game that it was interesting that in spite of winning the first game, he had switched his Pokemon. And the change he made was changing Latios in for Landorus Therian form, which would have helped him deal with Tyranitar had he kept it alive throughout the game. So it'll be. I would expect that he will probably make some adjustments and go back to Landorus there. But it was a good read by Aaron to kind of create a situation where Tyranitar could dominate and then exploit it.
Exactly. There's actually two changes by gebebo there. He actually had the Bisharp over the Thunderous the first game as well, which I could say it didn't really do anything, but I'd be totally wrong because the fact that it was there being itself really allowed the Volcarona to get the Quiver Dance. So that was the biggest thing there in that first match as well. So interestingly enough, gebebo actually went to his bench the entire way and took both things off his bench. But given that Aaron does have a very physical-based team, I'd be very surprised if we don't see Landorus Therian back on the field on gebebo's side this time.
Yeah,
it didn't seem like the Latios was really doing too much. Granted, we only saw Icy Wind, but an odd set already. I'd hazard a guess.
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting point. We didn't really get a chance to discuss it very much because it got swatted in one turn. But I'm curious what that Latios set is. I know I mentioned before I hadn't seen the team previously, so I wasn't sure what to expect from him. But presumably seeing Icy Wind, it's a more support-oriented Latios, unless he just chose to put it in that third filler slot, in addition to the Psychic and Dragon Move and Protect, which I guess is kind of always open. But I'd be curious to see that whole spread there and see exactly what he's trying to do, because we didn't get to see a whole bunch of it in that game, and there may have been a strategy there that we just didn't see because I imagine the first turn of that game did not work out quite how Ryosuke had intended it to.
No, probably not at all. Generally, when your Pokemon dies straight up in the first turn, it's really not what you were expecting. But we do see, in this time, Aaron going back to the Mamoswine Cresselia leads. Maybe not necessarily back to it, but bringing Cresselia out into the field once again against the Liepard Volcarona that gebebo led the first game. So it'll be interesting to see how gebebo recovers. Did he go back to exactly what he had the previous game, or is he doing something new altogether with a different combination?
I like this duo because I think if Aaron does want to try to get Trick Room up and sweep this game, this is the only safe way, or I guess safe in quotation marks here. It's the most reliable way he can try to do it. With almost any other combination, he has to fear Fake Tears plus Bug Buzz knocking Cresselia out in a single blow. But that's not really a viable option here because Mamoswine can just use Rock Slide and prevent that from working. So if he wants to Rock Slide and Trick Room here, he'll almost certainly either get a knockout on Volcarona, barring a Landorus Therian form switch in, or get Trick Room up, or both potentially in that scenario. So I think this is actually, assuming that there's Tyranitar and another slow Pokemon in Aaron's last two slots, this is a pretty smart setup.
I'd hazard a guess, just sight unseen here, we're probably going to see the Heatran and Tyranitar on Aaron's side here. I know that's kind of what he likes, and it does really match up well against a lot of the things that Aaron is actually using. Conkeldurr, not a bad option either, but on the other hand, the other ones give a lot more threat towards the Volcarona. Conkeldurr also would be good to deal with the Bisharp, so I guess there are some other options we can see here.
Yeah, I think it would by far be the wisest to pick those two Pokemon. I agree with you.
Definitely want to see the turn one here. So we do see the Liepard actually going with the Fake Out on the Mamoswine to stop the Rock Slide from KOing the Volcarona. Volcarona will fire away with the Bug Buzz. Directed at the Cresselia, so that's going to do a significant amount of damage, dropping it below half health. Cresselia does set up the Trick Room though, so that's interesting. But since Mamoswine stayed in, now he's got a very fast Scarf Pokemon in that slot. So there's going to be some probably free damage here against whatever Aaron switches in, whether that's Conkeldurr, whether it's Tyranitar, or potentially Heatran as well. So Aaron made his move really fast, so I don't think he has too many options here on what he can do.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I mean, it's sort of the one negative of that play is that you end up with poor Mamoswine kind of getting stranded there. But I thought it puts him in a good situation. The issue here is that unless he wants to risk getting encored into Trick Room, he has to switch Cresselia out. I think it's unlikely that Ryosuke will go for the encore there, so he's probably safe staying in. But he's going to have to switch once, maybe twice this turn, and try to anticipate the move here. He has to be really careful. Ryosuke, I think it's actually a fairly good play on his end to just consider randomly hidden power grounding one of these two slots here to try to catch Heatran on the switch, because if you do catch it, you probably win the game on that play, and it's extremely likely that Aaron has it. I mean, I would be shocked if he doesn't. The other option, of course, is catching Tyranitar, in which case your best option is Fake Tears and Bug Buzz, which will probably not knock it out, but be very close. So, I mean, you're just trying to get as much as you can out of this turn if you're Ryosuke, because Aaron will have the advantage after this turn, but Ryosuke actually has the advantage in Aaron's Trick Room for one more turn.
Which is a really odd thing to say. It's kind of like, yes, Aaron succeeded in setting up Trick Room for the later game, but right now he's at a disadvantage, and if he's not careful or doesn't predict right, he could very easily be down a Pokemon. And then it's really up to Ryosuke to battle back and wait for that Trick Room to end. I would predict, like, if I was in Ryosuke's shoes, I'd probably be trying to predict that Tyranitar switch, since that Tyranitar we know is extremely good against the team composition that Ryosuke is bringing in. So that would be my play, but I don't think you really target the Cresselia at this point, because it's not going to do too much to the Pokemon you have on the field.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of danger here too, because the other interesting play that Aaron can choose to make is rest in a switch, which would be pretty aggressive here, but assuming if he's confident he's not going to get Encore, he can get all that health back for free, which will greatly help him setting up Trick Room later in the game, but he does take the safe move and switches out here to avoid any potential embarrassing getting Encore shenanigans.
Which would have probably ended his run here very, very quickly. It looks like he's going for the double switch, so Conkeldurr and Tyranitar, so now it'll be interesting to really see what Ryosuke does here. Whether he valued killing the Cresselia more, or whether he is going to Fake Tears and take down the Tyranitar, or close to it, as much as he can here.
Looks like I've given Ryosuke some bad advice here.
That was not what I was going to anticipate, but...
Sorry, buddy.
Oh dear.
We see a hidden power and foul play hitting Aaron switch-ins for negligible damage there. Okay, so contrary to what Ryosuke and I thought, Aaron not using the Heatran here, I do think that's probably a mistake, and I want to explain why. So we have this next play here. We still haven't seen most of Ryosuke's team, right? We've wasted... It's similar to Game 1. We've wasted 3 turns now, and Aaron's Pokemon have taken a bunch of damage. He's got both of these two down to like 70% and Cresselia at more like 40. Ryosuke's Pokemon have taken 2 turns of sand damage. He also has Landorus Therian form as one of his other 4 options. If he did bring that this game, he can switch it in and double intimidate Aaron's Pokemon. Barring an Ice Punch catching on the switch, that probably stalls him another couple of turns. If Aaron gets Trick Room or stalled out on him here, he's probably going to lose the game because of how much damage he's taken. So he's going to have to play this really carefully.
So we actually see the switch. So Landorus Therian is one of the choices, obviously, just for the intimidate damage, and the all-physical team that Aaron is running. Also Bisharp coming out in the field, which at this point might allow him, because it's probably not going to do too much to this Pokemon on the field. The Ice Punch, guesses wrong, actually. Targeted the Volcarona slot, and Bisharp takes that instead. Which also gives... and the Rock Slide as well. Which... When Conkeldurr is not hitting its attacks the way it needs to be, especially the Life Orb version, it really hurts when you're taking Life Orb recoil and you're also taking sand damage every turn. Like, that's you really have a lot of damage you're taking on your own. And now we also have the threat of, once again, the Bisharp also says, you really got to be careful about what you do. Landorus is probably not going to stick around this turn, though.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great turn for Ryosuke. He does dodge the bullet there. Both sides are trying to fire out those super effective switch-in predictions there. Neither of them hitting their mark, with Heatran, safely on the bench, and now Landorus switching into the other slot there. That would have been a huge play if Aaron had hit it there, and he has to go for it, but 50-50 there, and he got it wrong, unfortunately. Bisharp is in a lot of trouble, just like Landorus is, though, because obviously both of the Pokemon on Aaron's side probably have fighting moves, so he wants to be careful with those. But there's another obnoxious turn of predictions for Aaron here. It's possible that Ryosuke will just double protect and try to stall Trick Room. I think that's unlikely, but he may choose to do it. Whenever he does choose to make a switch, there's an awkward position because of Volcarona. Volcarona resists both Mach Punch / I guess the fighting moves. There's 3 probably Aaron is available, and Ice Punch, which would be the only way you can knock out Landorus Therian form in a single blow. So he's got to predict where Volcarona is going to come in and hit it with an appropriate move, either by targeting the other Pokemon with the super effective attack and using Rock Slide, I guess is the correct way to do it. So he's going to make that prediction, or Trick Room is almost certainly going to get stalled out on him, and he's going to lose the game. There's also Liepard here to sacrifice, which is pretty much irrelevant at this point.
Yeah, that's also the thing that we have to be worried about here is Lipart, if it doesn't die on the switch in, also can stall out another turn with some fake out shenanigans or encore for whatever reason if there's a certain move that he wants Aaron to be locked into when he's bringing out the Volcarona once Trick Room ends. So or we could have Aaron's internet really win the game for us.
Sensing is impending defeat. Aaron has flipped the Wi-Fi switch. Apparently Ryosuke has flipped the Wi-Fi switch. Ryosuke, you were winning. Why? Why would you flip the Wi-Fi switch? Alrighty, so wow, we're apparently communicating very quickly there. Apparently, DC is in Ryosuke's end, and they want to replay the match. So, pretend the last 15 minutes of your life never happened. They're gone, and they're never coming back.
Ever. It's kind of like what we deal with when we're talking to Danny and
They're doing the same
Cathedral.
moves, so better yet, they will try to do this again without being crit or anything like that.
I seem to recall what happened last time someone promised me this.
Yeah, I think it involved like 30 minutes of napkin math and Harry Potter fanfics.
That's pretty... Well, are we sure it was Ryosuke's? Because Aaron is having trouble connecting to Wi-Fi now.
I mean, that always happens to me when people DC regardless of... Well, not always, but sometimes happens to me when people DC regardless of whose fault it is. And sometimes have to leave and re-enter, so... Thank God Nintendo Wi-Fi. The most fun thing in the world.
2 thumbs up.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess we can't complain too much. We've been lucky so far, kind of. But hopefully Aaron will sort this out here. He does seem to be having trouble connecting, though, which is...
That's not a good sign now,
yeah,
as it
well,
comes
I mean,
out here.
It surprises me, because you'd assume that it was his fault that they DC'd then, but apparently it was Ryosuke's fault. I don't know. The Wi-Fi is a little too powerful. I will say that I was happy, and we got through 4 entire games without the Wi-Fi being Wi-Fi, which is unfortunately better than usual. Do apologize to the viewers for this. I know it sucks to be that deep in a match and see technical issues, but Nintendo's Wi-Fi is pretty much garbage, and people's streaming probably makes it worse because both you're wasting more of your internet, and since most people stream off of cell phones, they also have phones with signals that probably don't cooperate very well with Wi-Fi directly next to their DS.
Yeah, that's that's one of those things where it just keeps kind of snowballing away, right? Where the more things you put up to grab signal and to stream signal, the more you're interacting with your DS. I noticed a big change actually when I got my 3DS on. I used to actually play on Wi-Fi with the DS Lite, and that was really hit or miss, but the 3DS signals seemed to be a lot better. I know Aaron's already doing that, so that's not the case, but I don't know what Aaron's doing now. Okay.
I mean, he's sorting out what his moves were. It was actually only 3 turns. It just felt longer to me. So this, in theory, shouldn't be that hard to get again, right?
You'd think. I'm skeptical, on the other hand. However, we can only give it the benefit of the doubt and see how it works out here. But they're already starting out the battle, so hopefully within a couple moves here, we'll see if it's going to work out the way we want it to. And then we should be right back to the prediction game.
Yeah, and for the meantime, we're going to play the memory game and see if the players remember their own moves. I mean, years of practicing with Go Fish have prepared them for this moment.
Aaron might have the advantage here being a lot younger and playing Go Fish a lot earlier, but or a lot more recently, but we'll see what happens here. If I remember correctly, it was the Fake Out of Mamoswine and the Bug Buzz on the Cresselia, which then Trick Roomed. And then we had the unfortunate predictions on gebebo's side, thinking that the Heatran was going to come in, and then finally the good predictions on gebebo's side to get back to an interesting location.
My prediction is that Volcarona will critical hit Cresselia and they will have to restart.
That's also my prediction. Or the critical hit Mamoswine.
Yeah, maybe they'll critical hit the Fake Out, and then it'll be like negligible, so they'll not deal with it, and then later on in the game it'll turn out to matter. That could be good too, but it's not what happens.
So far so good. Oh no, special defense fall, but he switches out anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
But the RNG is different. Things could change. Yeah, again, we apologize for the slowdown here, guys. Only 2 more turns, and we should be back to live action. Think of it like an instant replay.
And I'm also saving you right now from Cathedora, so you should all be thankful.
Yeah, unfortunately, we do not have any yellow markers to draw on the screen with. I would, of course, love to draw arrows between the Pokemon and somehow I could draw Rock Slide maybe. I'm not really sure what I would draw, but very disappointed that I can't.
You mean we need a League of Legends style Telestrator?
I want a Telestrator.
I would love a Telestrator. That'd be really good right now.
If you could all just send lots and lots of money to Nugget Bridge's PayPal account so I can buy a Telestrator, I'm thinking like probably hundreds of thousands of dollars would be good. Don't worry, guys. I'll be really good at it, though.
Drawing Rock Slide between the opposing Pokemon in the line of scrimmage.
You know it.
Okay, so far so good here.
I'm going to be shocked if this actually works, because typically when we remake games, something goes horribly wrong every single time.
So far so good. There's only one more turn of moves that could actually matter here. Now, the Bisharp will get frozen, I'm sure, but what can you do?
I mean, Pokemon just kind of one of those games where there's lots of probability, which makes it really difficult to do these things. Also, keep in mind Bisharp can't be frozen. Skarm's trying to think about why, but I'm lying to him.
Skarm was actually saying goodnight to his wife.
Sure.
And he did that not on air.
Good job, Skarm.
I know. Number one husband, top tier.
Hopefully all the viewers say hi to Skarm's wife.
So we got the one more turn here, so we'll cross our fingers and hope that there is not obscene luck like we normally do, but just in this game we actually really mean it. Aaron cleverly, though, switching the order of his Pokemon so that Tyranitar's on the left and Conkeldurr's on the right, just to throw gebebo off a little more.
Game-changing moves. Please don't crit.
Please don't crit or freeze. Oh my god.
Oh my gosh, it's gonna work, probably. I feel good now.
Oh, wow. I for one, am shocked. So what's the over-under on the disconnect right now before the next turn?
I would probably actually cry on air, is what would happen. Anyway, we're back to the battle here. So, Aaron's still in the same awkward position he was before. Trick Room's getting stalled out here. He's taking a lot of damage. He needs to make some plays happen here and not accidentally whack Volcarona with a fighting or ice-type move on the switch-in order to give himself a realistic chance at taking this game. One thing that would be interesting to note here is that if this were Ryosuke's Worlds team, he'd have an easier play here because Tyranitar would be slower, so he could just Rock Slide and use one of his coverage moves. But since Tyranitar is faster in this case, Conkeldurr will go first, and that option isn't there. Unless he uses Mach Punch, which he does, and gets the free knockout, I'm sure.
Yes, he does. So the question is, in this case, I'm wondering if Ryosuke's play is to bring in the Liepard and stall at Trick Room a little further, or potentially then, bring in the Volcarona and protect stall.
I mean, I'm assuming it'll be Liepard here. You get the Fake Out for easy damage and Conkeldurr to stop Rock Slide. Landorus gets a free attack. It seems like a no-brainer to me.
And that's exactly what Ryosuke is doing, bringing out the Liepard. You pretty much have to Fake Out the Conkeldurr, except, there's also some intricacies here, just on what you want to do. Interested to see if the Landorus does switch out for potentially the Volcarona and the Fake Out goes Tyranitar's way, hoping to catch Flame Body with an Ice Punch, or Ice Punch with Flame Body activating, also an option. Yeah, but you also have to be careful not to wear yourself down either if you're gebebo here.
Yeah, I mean, you have the same worry if you're Aaron too. I mean, between Life Orb and Sand, Conkeldurr probably doesn't have too many turns left, even if it's not attacked again. And Fake Out would take up about a turn and a half on its own. I wouldn't be surprised to see some switches on Aaron's side, but then, of course, he's causing the problem of stalling out his own Trick Room. He also has the option of bringing Cresselia in here, which would help him deal with Landorus, but I think the most likely attack for Landorus here is going to be a U-turn to get Volcarona in safely and not have to worry about the potential of a Rock Slide, while also letting him double Intimidate again. So that would remove a lot of Aaron's potential benefit plays, since he'd end up with Cresselia stuck with Volcarona. But we'll see what he does here. I don't see a lot of great opportunities for Aaron to improve his situation, but he doesn't go with what I was thinking here.
Okay, so he does go with the Fake Out on a Conkeldurr. It means Tyranitar gets the free Rock Slide onto Liepard and Landorus. Landorus does Earthquake, so he's going to take out his own Liepard, or do significant damage for the... does not kill the Liepard? Or either way, Sandstream is going to kill it anyway, so it doesn't actually matter. Conkeldurr definitely fates, and Tyranitar is brought to 21 HP. Liepard did not get knocked out that turn, but he will now with the Sandstream cleaning up.
A little surprised to see Earthquake there, but I guess now that I think about it, I guess it makes sense. I was thinking there was one more turn of Trick Room, but that makes it an easier decision. So now he's got full health Landorus in here, and Volcarona is back out.
but this is where you just bring in the Mammal Swine and Rock Slide if you're Aaron. So
Yeah, this is part of why I was thinking that playing this a little more conservatively would make more sense. But I mean, I guess it's still a winnable situation for Ryosuke as long as Mammo Swine misses Rock Slide or doesn't flinch Rock Slide on Landorus, and Landorus can somehow take out Mammo Swine with Earthquake. I mean, he's going to need some help, basically. The RNG can still allow Ryosuke to stay in this game, but I don't think he played the last turn correctly, and that has put him in a very inconvenient spot. This is part of the issue with knocking out your own Pokemon, is that it reduces the potential plays you can make, and that's the worst situation you can put yourself in against a Pokemon holding a choice item.
And that is very true. Aaron playing perhaps a little more conservatively, switching out the 21 HP Tyranitar for the Cresselia, whereas Mousehound does go for the Rock Slide, and Ryosuke did not protect the Volcarona to get some extra damage. Volcarona is going to drop right there from that. Landorus will get the turn, assuming he doesn't flinch. It does U-turn. U-turns on the Cresselia, so I suppose he did predict that correctly. We can say it's a prediction, be nice. But on the other hand, it's not really going to matter. I'd be very surprised if Ryosuke can do anything in the situation he's at right now.
Yeah, that's pretty much all she wrote there, barring a chain of misses, and Aaron doesn't even have to allow that as long as he switched Mammo Swine out here to maintain a 100% win percentage. So a great game by Aaron there, surprisingly. Surprisingly because I thought he was in a very disadvantageous position at the disconnect, and he played much better from that point in the match on than Ryosuke did. So I guess I felt like Aaron kind of threw the first game a little bit, and Ryosuke kind of threw the third game a little bit. So I guess we ended up in the situation we should have ended up in. Proud Aaron too. It's always tough to come back when you lose the first game in a series, especially when you're in a situation like he was there, where he probably should have won the first game of the series. But he's able to battle back here, and assuming he has a 100% accurate ice move here, will take this series without too much trouble, in spite of his earlier issue. And I think that's an impressive comeback. 0-1 against someone who just got eliminated by at Worlds. Probably not a very desirable situation to be in, but he was able to stick it out here and play a really smart second and third game of the series to come out ahead.
And a good showing by Mamoswine here, actually, in the changes Aaron made to the team. Landorus, well, it would have some benefits as well, is nowhere near what Mamoswine did to the threat, did threat-wise to gebebo's team. So there is the Icicle Spear to drop Landorus and take the series 2-1 for Aaron. So good job to Cybertron, and good showing by gebebo as well.
I thought that was a really great series. We get a wide variety of series when we do these show matches, where some players will take it more seriously than others, and it seems like Japan in general always gives good matches, whereas I guess Korea's used some really interesting teams, and we've used some really interesting teams that were kind of bad, to be blunt. But both Aaron and Ray with some strong showings for Team USA here, and we got a really great series in this one. 3 games that went down to the wire there, 2 1-0 games actually, so doesn't get too much closer than that.
No, and some good plays and predictions all around. Like you said, good on Aaron for, pulling up his pants, I guess, and, really knuckling down after it was pretty much entirely his playing that made him drop the first game, just with some poor choices in planning. The next 2 games, he definitely turned that around and got his head in the game and realized what it would take to play against a player against gebebo's quality. So, really good. And, of course, Ray's team against Hiryu, 2 good players as well. And, I really enjoyed watching another game of Ray's Dry Squin, Jinx team, and all that stuff. So really good on all the matches so far.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing you have to appreciate here, too. It's easy to forget, but these are some really, really quality players, because the 3-time world champion against a former national champion in the last matchup, and a former 2-time national champion in Aaron Zhang, and also a top 4 worlds finisher this year, versus the reigning Japanese national champion and the second place worlds finisher. So the 2 Japanese champions of the last 2 years have both played on stream here and only ended up with 1 win between them. So I guess it shows you how good everybody here is. Even national champions having a hard time against some of these opponents here.
And that's one thing that's just interesting to note. A lot of those games could have gone either way, and that's the thing. Like both teams were winnable, both games were winnable for either side. I mean, it wasn't clear cut, and there were close matches. So. Yeah, Japan with only 1 win beside them, but I think it could have very easily been the other way. So just some solid playing all around from everyone.